Right now, I want to bring in Mark Regev. He's a senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Thanks so much, Mark, for joining us. What can you tell us, first of all, about Prime Minister Netanyahu's meeting today with President Biden? It was behind closed doors. Are the Prime Minister and the President Biden, on the same page about Israel's war against Hamas and its humanitarian responsibilities?
My impression from the discussions is the Americans do understand that Hamas has to be dismantled, that there has to be a new reality in Gaza, that the situation that existed up until now is simply unsustainable, that we cannot expect Israelis to live next to this terrorist enclave dominated by Hamas, who exposed itself for all its brutality for everyone to see. And as you reported just a moment ago about their plans to kill people in Israel. At the same time, as we pursue this relentless campaign against Hamas, we will be making a distinction between Hamas and its fighters and its terrorist machine, and between the civilian population of Gaza. And I think in the principles, we're agreed with the Americans and others. And we are, as Anderson reported, we're encouraging people to move south, to move out of the heavy fighting we expect to be in the north. And at the same time, of course, we understand that those people moving to the south will require humanitarian assistance. And we've okayed the idea that that assistance come through the Gaza crossings. Are, of course, issues, dual purpose items, and the fact that Hamas is quite possibly going to again try to steal some of the aid for its own civilian military machine, for its own military machine, I should say. And it's important that safeguards are put in place to prevent that, or at least to limit that.
President Biden says he got what he calls no pushback on his request that Israel allow this humanitarian aid through Egypt into Gaza. Can you confirm that? Will that much-needed aid enter Gaza soon and in significant numbers?
So once again, we've agreed to that in principle, but sometimes the devil is in the details. And the president himself spoke about the fact that we don't want to see Hamas stealing aid that's directed towards the civilian population. And Wolf, it's a real problem. We had an example earlier this week. CNN reported that those 6 oil tankers entered Gaza with fuel that was supposed to go to Gaza hospitals to run the generators so they could have electric power. And there was clear documented evidence that Hamas stole some of that fuel, and our assumption has to be that that was diverted to Hamas's military machine.
Israel says it's not responsible for the Gaza hospital blast, that it was a failed rocket from Islamic Jihad. But the Jordanian foreign minister still blames Israel and says no one in the Arab world will believe otherwise. How does Israel change that very widespread perception?
So I'm not sure we can, because the evidence is overwhelming. And the U.S. government, as we just heard, has come out strongly in support of Israel's contention that it was a rocket that went stray, a Islamic Jihad rocket that was fired into Israel, fell short. There was a malfunction in the rocket, fell short, and hit the hospital, or the area of the hospital. This is not new. We've seen this sort of malfunction in Islamic Jihad's rockets before. There was a noted case in 2022 when there was a family that was killed in a refugee camp in Gaza. Once again, a missile shot into Israel, malfunctioning and landing in Gaza and killing people. But you ask a more important question. The truth is Israel was, of course, not involved, but will people believe it? And, of course, that is difficult. But I think, and I think, Wolf, you might tend to agree with me, you know the region well, there can be a difference between what Arab governments know and what they can say publicly. I believe Arab governments who work with the West, who have all sorts of defense and security relationships with the United States, that they can't ignore reality. Whether they can say that publicly to their own people or not, with the feeling on the Arab street and so forth, that I don't know. But I think the evidence is overwhelming that Israel obviously was not involved, and that evidence, I think, in leaderships across the Arab world, I think that's pretty clear that they will accept that.
Mark Regev, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Wolf.
Just ahead.